to meditate as we read from Affirmations for Self-Healing by Swami Ananda on love. One finds love not by being loved, but by loving. We can never know love if we try to draw others to ourselves, nor can we find it by centering our love in them. For love is infinite. It is never ours to create. We can only channel it from its source in infinity to all whom we meet. The more we forget ourselves in giving to others, the better we can understand what love really is. And the more we love as channels for God's love, the more we can understand that His is the one love in all the universe. And let's affirm together. I will love others as extensions of my own self and of the love I feel from God. I will love others as extensions of my own self and of the love I feel from God. And a little quieter, I will love others as extensions of my own self and of the love I feel from God. And whispering, I will love others as extensions of my own self and the love I feel from God. And silently, I will love others as extensions of my own self and the love I feel from God. And please pray silently as I pray aloud. O Infinite One, make me a channel for thy love. Through me, reach out to sow seeds of love in barren hearts everywhere. And from Whispers for Eternity by Paramahansa Ananda, entitled Come to Me, O Christ, as a divine shepherd of souls. O shepherd of souls, wandering hearts are seeking of themselves the one fold of divine devotion. We have heard the ever-calling music of thy infinite kindness. Our one desire is to find our home in thee, to receive the cosmic Father with the joyous open eyes of wisdom, and to know that all of us are sons of our one God. Calling to one another by the watchword, love him who loves you, and love all who love you not. Let us rally beneath the canopy of the universal oneness of the Christ. Amen. And this reading is drawn from the autobiography of the yogi on the chapter, The Sacred Mother, Kashimoni. The omnipotence of spiritual law was referred to by Christ on the occasion of his triumphant entry into Jerusalem. As the disciples and the multitude shouted for joy and cried, "Peace in heaven and glory in the highest," certain Pharisees complained of the undignified spectacle. "Master," they protested, "rebuke thy disciples." "I tell you," Jesus replied, "that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out." Think you, Jesus was saying, to silence men of peace? As well may you hope to throttle the voice of God, whose very stones sing his glory and his omnipresence. Well, it's a joy to be with all of you this Easter morning, and greetings to all those that are tuning in online. Roma from York sends her blessings, and though it's going to be still a little while until we both return, I'll be leaving in about a week, we are anxious to come back to Mother India, to say the very least, to spend time with all of you. Well, Easter is a very, very powerful time. Think of the truly millions that are celebrating Easter around the world. And by thinking of our brothers and sisters in the many, many countries that are here on this earth plane. We can join with them in our hearts and begin to feel more and more, because this is our destiny, to feel that beginning of omnipresence when we expand our hearts and expand our minds. As Yogananda said, little do people know what radical changes are possible through prayer. It really is a form of prayer to be thinking of ourself, our spirit, in the many, many forms that frequent this earth and beyond. When Christ came as an infant into this world, again, he didn't need to come. These great ones, Krishna, Moses, Buddha, the many, many saints in India and throughout the world, they don't need to come. They come because of a compassion that perhaps at this point in time we can't even fathom, because they're leaving a state of bliss to come down to this earth plane. And we know, we're all adults here, that it's a bit of a workout. Sometimes I think, what is this place? Is it a hospital? Is it a gymnasium? Is it a playground? Is it Disneyland? What is this place? Well, all of the above and more. And we come down here, weighted down by our karma. But the wonderful thing about having an inner life is to embrace Yogananda's teachings, how to outwit your karma. All in the many churches that I've been to, being raised as an American, specifically in California, I've been to many, many churches. And their front and center, I can't even remember an exception, is Jesus Christ on the cross. Well, it's a beautiful image, but I would think that there would be more churches that would be celebrating the resurrection, seeing him bathed in the light. What is this preoccupation with all of this suffering? That if we don't suffer, no pain, no gain. And yogis say, well, let's tweak that a little bit. This no pain, no gain. Let's exchange pain for joy. And in the beginning, it does seem like that's an impossibility, but we begin with affirmation. Affirmation is a dear friend. I am joy. And we may not believe it all that much, but we need to get started somewhere. And then over time, with affirmation, with visualization, with meditation, with seva, all of these various things, we begin to pierce the veil sufficiently to discover that we are that joy. I'm half Catholic and half Jew. And so that's why I tease, not knowing what to do with that. I would be welcome in Jerusalem. My mother is a Jew, a Russian Jew, and my father Catholic. So not knowing what to do with these two, I went surfing instead. And that was my way to commune with nature and see what I could do to figure out, why was I born in this family? Well, I was very fortunate, lovely, loving parents. Well, in time, I came to Ananda. And interestingly, I don't know why, but as Gyanamata Yogananda's most advanced disciple said, in the beginning, it's hand-to-hand combat with the newly awakened disciple and the guru. And so I don't know if I battled with all the gurus initially, but I certainly battled with Christ. And I didn't know what to think of it. I couldn't even hold the Bible. And I figured, what is this? What is going on? Well, maybe it was too many visits to the various churches with Christ on the cross or something. I don't know, but it carried over. And I knew it wasn't his problem, obviously. There was no question that he was a divine being. It was an issue that I needed to work out. And so I thought, well, I've got to start somewhere. That's the spiritual path. One step at a time. Making, someday made, as Lahiri Mahashaya said. So I thought, well, okay, how do I get started? Well, I tried to read a little bit of the Bible, but all I did was get irritated. I thought, well, that's not quite the reaction one should have. This is a holy scripture. What is this? So I thought, okay, I guess I'm not ready for that. I'll just put the Bible on my chest. I was a monk at the time. And So there I was in my own teepee, kind of a primitive dwelling that we used to have in the early years at Ananda. And so no one was, seeing me with this perhaps odd sadhana, though it's a good one. And so I would just have the Bible on my chest, and I began bit by bit to drink in the vibrations. Maybe I got the cue from my dad, who was a brilliant student. He didn't have much time in college. He went to Berkeley in California, and he was working all the time to work his way through school. What did he do? He said, I slept on my books. And somehow, we're all drawing from one another and from various sources in order to inspire ourselves. And he continued to be a brilliant student, although he didn't have much time to study. But somehow, by God's grace, he slept on his books, and the books gave him what he needed. And so I had the Bible on my chest there for some time. After a while, and this was something I continue to be grateful for, but I was certainly grateful for Swami Kriyananda saying in one of his lectures, he said, when you read the Bible, no matter what story, whatever it might be, think of Christ as joy. So that if he's throwing out the money changers, it's with joy. The money changers in front of the temple. This to Christ was a sacrilege. What are you doing? Do your business elsewhere. This is a holy place. So he got a whip. These masters, they are sweetness and light, but they also can be fiery. And so out came the whip, and what do the money changers think of this? My gosh. And yet to think of this episode as Christ doing this with joy, it brought a smile to my face, and I felt inspired by that. And the loaves and fishes and the many, many miracles in the Bible, each episode, then I would spend time thinking, this was done by a being, a Christ, a true Christ, flooded with joy. And then I was able to take the Bible off of my chest. I don't know how long it took. We tend to be stubborn people. As Yogananda said, I attract stubborn people. So maybe it took me some weeks or months until finally I thought, okay, now I'm ready to read the Bible. And I've enjoyed it to this day because Swami's message, think of Christ as a being of joy, because I suspect that I fell into the old trap of Christ just being a wooden Indian figure. As Swamiji used to tease, that I think many people, he said, would think of Christ coming to a perfectly innocent picnic where all the children were playing, enjoying themselves, and being this stoic person, kind of, this and that and so forth. He would be a party pooper. Who would have followed Christ as they did in the thousands, as Yogananda filled the largest halls in the West when he was there in the 20s and 30s in that ministry? Who would have followed Christ and Buddha and all these ones if he wasn't flooded with this magnetic joy? And so Christ knew from the very, very beginning, as all these great ones knew, that this was his destiny to come to this earth for a very short time. He passed when he was only 33. And he was to play his part. And he saw all of it from front to back. And when it came time, at the age of 30, he had that 3-year ministry. Then after coming back, they took out 18 years of Christ's life, which is, quite something to do. I don't know who did that. I suspect it was a group of church elders. Why did they take out those 18 years of the Bible? You see Christ working in his father's shop when he's 12, and then he disappears. Like, there's some chapters missing. Maybe I got the wrong edition. And then he reappears when he's 30. 18 years gone. Why did they take that out? As Yogananda explained, because he was the son of God. Well, we're all that, sons and daughters of God. Ye two are gods, as it says in the Bible. And they didn't want, because he went, as Yogananda explained, to go to India and various places of pilgrimage to spend time with the saints in satsang. So they didn't want to think and to share with others a thought that Christ was going to learn from others. The Son of God, he came in perfect. He didn't need to learn anything. Well, Yogananda also explained that he went to repay the visit of the three wise men. And I think some people are still digesting this. Yogananda said the three wise men were none other than Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, and Swami Sri Yukteswar. I thought, oh my God, I don't know how many Christians could handle that. Probably none. And so they went following the Eastern Star, the point between the eyebrows, again, as Yogananda explained, to be there for the infant Christ. And Swami Kriyananda at one point said to Yogananda, being curious as he was, he said he doesn't know of any of the disciples that asked as many questions as he did when he first arrived. He was a young man of 22 when he came to Master's ashram. And so he said to Master at one point, he said, were you Jesus Christ? In other words, there was Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, and Sri Yukteswar. Where were you? I wonder if you were the baby. And what was Yogananda's response? What difference would it make? And yet, when he came to the West, he called his mission the second coming of Christ. So you think, well, is this a mixed message? Who's to say? But as Sri Yukteswar wisely counseled, he said, some of these things best to leave when we're realized. Some people come, Swami likes to tease, they're brand new on the path. They want to know the difference between Nirvikalpa Samadhi and Salvakalpa Samadhi. And Swami said, we have other problems first to face. Let's work on those. We can work on these other questions later, not at this moment. Let's just figure if we can have some good thoughts and keep our hearts open. And so, who was this Christ? This was a soul that had freed himself many, many lifetimes prior to coming in as Christ. And so he was, again, as Yogananda was talked about, he wore his wisdom as a comfortable old coat. All these great saints, they're so natural. They can completely play their role perfectly. As it says in the Bible, be ye therefore perfect, and they are. They can play their part perfectly as human beings, and they can play their part perfectly beyond it all in that state of bliss. And so Christ playing his role, why did Yogananda study under Sri Yukteswar for 10 years? He didn't need to. He was an avatar. He did as an example for us all, as they do. Why did Christ go to India and other places to seek the wisdom of these great souls and so forth? Again, as an example. It's all about discipleship. People understand mentorship. That's a shortcut. Whatever trade you're wanting to learn in school, whatever it might be. Well, what of the guru-disciple relationship? And so when Christ came back, he knew what awaited him in 3 years. And how ironic that just days before his crucifixion, they would be honoring him at Palm Sunday and all of the rejoicing. The Pharisees were not happy, obviously, with all of this celebration that a true Christ had come. But he knew this wouldn't last. And it's a message for all of us too, with our kind of up and down existence until we're finally rooted in God, that this is the ride. Relax and enjoy it. And when we're down, we're working out our karma. This is good. And when we're up, we're having a little breather, because if we were just working out our karma, who would parachute down to this earth? It would just be too daunting. And so bit by bit, as we are working out our karma, as Yogananda said, we need to work out our karma, our tests pleasantly, with joy. And so Christ knew that, yes, there he was with everyone honoring him, but my friends, it's not going to last. And then he had the Last Supper. And who was there of the 12 disciples? Judas. And he knew what Jesus was going to do. And interestingly, as Yogananda shared, another astonishing thing, that Judas, he hung himself after, again, he betrayed Christ, but he's a free soul today. He was a disciple of Ramakrishna, one of the monks. Again, as Yogananda shared, I found this just astonishing. And Christ came to Ramakrishna. Yogananda loved Ramakrishna. He came to Ramakrishna. Christ came to Ramakrishna and said, "Free this man." And even toward the end of this monk's incarnation, who was Judas in the past, the monks used to tease him about his attachment to money. And Ramakrishna would say, "Don't do that." Because he knew, as all the great masters knew, the suffering that he had to undergo. Well, 2,000 years sounds like a long time, but we can console ourselves and so forth when we think of these vast reaches of time until we reach God, that time and space are an illusion. If Judas is free, what of us? We're moving along, quite nicely compared to the treachery. Hard to believe. And he was one of the 12. And when questioned by Swami, was he a true prophet? Judas, was he a prophet to do what he did? And Yogananda said, yes, he had to be one of the 12. And so how can we understand? How can we understand these things? And Yogananda further consoled us when we think of the crucifixion, that Christ didn't mind it that much. And you think, he didn't mind it that much. Just to visualize what that would be like, we can't possibly imagine. Why did he not mind it so much? Father, as he prayed, forgive them. They know not what they do. These guys are absolutely asleep. They wouldn't be doing this. And if they were awake, they would regret for the rest of their lives. He didn't mind. Also, he didn't mind because he knew in a few days he'd be resurrected. And he would come to the disciples who were terrified because they were being hunted as disciples of Christ. They were in hiding. And there Christ appeared. And doubting Thomas, he didn't know what to think of Christ materializing. So Christ said, just touch me. And he did. And that's what he needed. The other disciples, no doubt, knew by vibration, knew by their attunement, that this was the true experience. And is this something that happened once? Sri Yukteswar materialized too. After he passed, there was a woman that he used to visit with there. Perhaps it was Sri Ampur. And so some days after he had passed in Mahasamadhi, there he was materialized before this woman. This woman went to the ashram, not knowing that he had passed, and said, "Oh, I want to see Sri Yukteswar." "No, he's passed." "No, I just got done seeing him on his walk, on his daily walk." And so the resurrection of these great ones, in the chapter of the autobiography of Yogi, it's thrilling to read the resurrection of Sri Yukteswar. And as a matter of fact, enterprising folks from Mumbai found the exact place. And it probably wasn't easy for them. Excuse me, it was now an office building. It was no longer the Regent Hotel or whatever it was called. Can we, kind of look around? We have an idea that something very special happened. How far they went into the description of what they were looking for, I don't know, but they found the spot. Really amazing, absolutely amazing, where Sri Yukteswar materialized before Yogananda. And so Christ to this day is alive and well. Many years ago, three of us monks, it was Santosh, Benai, and myself, went down to Los Angeles because we heard of a saint that was there, Father Aloysius, who was known to bilocate. And it wasn't that we were interested necessarily in that, but we thought if he can bilocate, he probably is an advanced soul, and he was. And so I remember him blessing Jaya. For some reason, I had my eyes open. I wanted to kind of see the blessing for Jaya. And Jaya had glasses on. And this guy was blessing him with such vigor. His glasses are kind of like off to the side. And I thought, well, that's a blessing. You know, I'd like to sign up for one of those too. I don't remember if I got one with such vigor, but it was very, very sweet. And then he got transferred, as they say. When these saints get too popular, then the other priests worry because now everyone's going to their church. And the congregation is starting to fall off in theirs. And so the term is their prison. And so he was sent to Spain, where perhaps Father Aloysius wasn't going to be so well known. Because he could bilocate, I suspect he stayed in Los Angeles as well to continue to care for his flock, as well as continue his or begin his ministry in Spain. And so Jesus Christ, reading the lives of St. Francis, Yogananda's patron saint, when we came here in 1980 for a small pilgrimage, it was just 5 of us or so before the formal pilgrimages to visit the saints and so forth. We then went to Italy because our center was just starting there. And I thought, oh boy, after spending time in these incredible shrines here in India, what will Italy be like? But I thought, well, Master's patron saint was St. Francis. Let's see. These shrines, they held their own. And I was so pleased because that's how it is around the world. India has an exclusive, no doubt, India being the guru of the world and so many places of pilgrimage here. But God, out of his compassion, there's these other places as well where one can get, as I like to say, you go into these temples and it meditates for you. And so Jesus Christ, through these great saints, if you ever have a chance to read the life of Padre Pio, he was a great South Italian saint. He passed in the 80s. And his life, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. These great saints have continued all these centuries to deeply attune themselves with Christ until they get to the point where I've shared with you in the past very, very sweetly. There was a man who was in a concentration camp. And of course, that was a very, very grim experience for all of them there, obviously. And they were there, and one of the soldiers, drawn by the light of this soul, wanted to know, how is this possible? You're in this dreadful situation and you're glowing like an angel. And he said it because the saint had talked to this soldier about Christ. He said, what is Christ like? And this man, in a high state of superconsciousness, no doubt, or he wouldn't have said this. He said, Christ is like me. And so that's where we're going. Ye too are God. Be ye therefore perfect, as your Father in heaven is perfect. And so for us, times as we have so many times here in India, Easter being one of them, these special times that are supercharged with the high vibrations of the festivals, honoring the saints and so forth. This is a time too to think of all of our little crosses that we have, and we do, our karma, and gently put them to the side. They have their place. We're working out our karma. We're doing our best to stay in joy and stay in tune as we do, and to share with others. But think more and more about the resurrection. And that is our destiny. That's where we're going, and that's where we've come from. And so it's a blessing to spend time with you here and celebrate truly the resurrection of Christ, and know that, and this is such a joy, we don't have to head off somewhere to go find him. He lives in our hearts. Okay, we are going to now have some music. Thank you, Katyani, who will guide us. And
so we are going to listen to 2 songs that are a part of Christ Oratorio. The first one is called the Palm Sunday, which is a Sunday before the Easter Sunday, which is the last Sunday. That's the time when Jesus was welcomed in Jerusalem by the Jews. as the king, son of David. It's a very beautiful song written and composed by Swami Kriyananda ji. And the second song is called Christ is Risen. And Christ is Risen is the song for the Easter Sunday, which is today. And so we'll be listening to both these songs. His phone is there. Okay. Okay. So I'll play it from my phone. The person whose speaker is connected is not there, so I'll just play it from my phone. The first song is called The Palm Sunday. In the name of God, sing out Hosanna in the highest. Sing Hosanna to the Lord. Sing out Hosanna in the highest. Sing Hosanna to the Lord. Sing out Hosanna, sing out Hosanna, Hosanna, sing out in the name of God. Sing out, sing out, Hosanna, Hosanna, sing out in the name of God. Sing out, sing out, Hosanna, Hosanna, sing out in the name of God. Sing out, Hosanna, 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 sing out in the name of God. Sing out, Hosanna, sing out, Hosanna, Hosanna, sing out to the Lord. Sing out, Hosanna, sing out, Hosanna, Hosanna, sing out to the Lord. And next one is Christ is Risen. Oh, actually had words. Christ is risen, it's Easter morn. Us our lives to joy are born. Oh, death is ever free. In His life, in so are we. Gone our darkness, vanished forever. In our souls, Thy light we see. God, our illusions clear now our vision. In Thy joy we live ever free. Christ is risen, this Easter morn. Thus our lives to joy are born. From death is ever free. In His life, in so are we. Gone our darkness, vanished forever. In our souls, Thy light we see. Gone our illusions, clear now our vision. In Thy joy we live ever free. Gone our illusions, clear now our vision. In Thy joy we